know, this is what we talk about, purpose and passion. Kind of talk about everything going on in the current event, current world, global pandemic and everything. First off, we'd like to take back, I'd like to welcome everybody back, and we'd like to pay our respects to John Lewis, Congressman John Lewis, political rights activist CT Vivian, and anybody else that's lost their life due to the pandemic or COVID. Man, that was, I feel like for the black community, I feel like that was a huge loss, and for Congress, I think as well. Somebody that, kind of paved the way for us in terms of the marches with Dr. Martin Luther King, I'm sorry, and kind of build a mountain, push a mountain so we can kind of, have a little bit of status in our current America, even though we got to fight for it now.
Bro, John Lewis was ASC since, I think, 87?
Yeah, he's been sitting for a long time.
Consecutive terms since 87, bro. Think about the longevity that he's had and how much he's seen change and not change. The policies that he's been able to participate on and make sure that that got passed for people who look like us, and just human rights in general, bro. So you can have a whole series about John Lewis and his accomplishments on their own, bro. So that major loss for the movement, for our people, for the world, really.
I think it's an opportunity for the next man up to kind of step into that right and make his voice heard now. We won't be able to replace what he's getting us in the community, but it does give someone an opportunity to kind of go ahead and take the torch from this point and continue to carry it forward.
No matter what age.
No matter what age, so you're looking at it for real.
Even in his early 20s, speaking against large crowds.
Speaking against segregation, Jim Crow, all that, yeah, I feel that. Who y'all think could possibly make that move, be the next? I mean, obviously you can't replace John Lewis what he did, but maybe be that next voice.
Who's positioning themselves to make their voice heard? We're doing so, actively now. I believe we are. Some other people.
Man, Steven Jackson, big ups to Stack, man. He been on the front lines just in Georgia. He got killed, and he been applying pressure, probably risking his job in a lot of places, but he don't care. So he really been a big step. And so shout out to Stack. I don't know if you want to do the John Lewis route, but he definitely big step for our people right now.
I give a little credit to Shannon Sharp too, though.
He's
He's been very outspoken on a platform that is widely based around the white majority. And there's nothing wrong with that, because you talk about sports, but now you've done talking about sports, you're a Hall of Fame tight end, and you said, let me push that out the way, and let me get into what the nitty gritty, what the real topic is. What are we talking about? We're talking about race.
And I think he's really is a voice for all the athletes who are playing today who are afraid to say something because of their job or they get in trouble.
You see the job?
So I think he's a big respect, because I really do appreciate that.
I don't even know if it's who the next person can be so much as, because you have plenty of people out there. It's just a matter of getting behind them, finding them and whatnot, and pushing them. Because there's gonna be plenty of people out there and whatnot. But when you see someone like that, what do you do to propel that person and put them on a higher platform, put them on a higher pedestal, make sure if they're trying to get something done, like a John Lewis and stuff like that, especially politically, making sure you get behind them and having the whole community rally behind them. I think that's the major difference between then and now, because they saw it as a collective unit in the community that would push that one person. Now, we've all came across that person and we're like, okay, you know what I'm saying, they're doing something, like they could definitely be that person for the community. But when you sit back and you really think about it, did you do everything you could to make sure that person rose to the level and the standard that it's supposed to rise to? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. How do you, now that everybody's listening to everybody, because everything was shut down, it's been all over the news. We finally got people to listen and open up and have at least dialogue about some of the things that the civil rights movement is about. How do you take that communication and form a community around it, where people start actually seeing some progress toward the things you're talking about, instead of everybody arguing about what side of the fence they're on? How do we go about doing that? Anybody know?
I think having a difference of opinions is good. It's helpful in terms of to build a strong community, a strong world, even a strong country as well. But the problem is that people have to understand that basic human rights and basic human equality, there can't be a difference of opinions. That has to be equal. That has to be a collective. Like, everybody should agree that we should not necessarily, that there is a problem, and that maybe you not feel like it's that serious, but you have to understand that there's a problem, and that we need to address it. That I understand that there are a lot of people that feel like this country was built on great men, but this country was also built on the backs of people that had the voice.
Very true.
So,
You gotta fight, like, you have to protect your mental and your mind and what you see though too at the same time, especially when it comes to the media. Because it's so many triggers out there that as soon as you see something, you get triggered off rip. And all that does is put a lot of people on defense mode, to be honest. And a lot of times, rightfully so, you know what I'm saying? Especially when we're speaking on these recent situations with police and everything like that. But also understand there's a lot of good things going on too.
do you think the media is suppressing
A lot of
what's going on?
That's what I was gonna ask.
You think-
In terms of like positivity, do you think there's a lot more positivity than there's negativity, or vice versa? Do you think the media plays a large role in it?
It's versus the news. You always gonna see negativity.
Yeah,
that's,
so
what,
like-
that's what gets people going. And when you think too, it's election year, right?
Mm-hmm.
Why would you not blast out your whatever political party side you're on? Why would you not blast out that rhetoric or whatever you wanted people to hear? Because as soon as you start notice with the protest happened.
You still see them on Twitter, but they ain't on TV no more.
So they suppress it.
They suppressed it, and I'm still trying to figure. I ain't gonna cut you off, but I understand why. Like as a black man, I'm very appreciative of the spectacle they made of George Floyd's death. But I want to know why the media attention was so much as it was for the entirety of before they put him in the ground. The man stayed on ice for 2 weeks
Yeah, something like that.
and toured around the country, put him in Senate, like not in Senate, but like they just took him all around the country for what? I feel like it was a political statement. And that's just my opinion, but I feel like they made the George Floyd thing what they did because it's a political statement. It was for the people who was killed around that same time, like Breonna Taylor, we still ain't seen no justice for. So what makes George Floyd so special? Our respect to his family, and I think he does do it because I know the movement that he sparked. But why?
How gruesome though. Like that got a lot to do with it.
Well, I mean, I think
you've
it's-
seen people get shot. You've seen all that stuff. But the fact, what is it, 8 minutes, 46 seconds? They kneeled on this man's neck.
Yeah.
Yes, that's gonna he took a knee, bro. Like something we do in football to break down the
only
only.
sparks because it was videotaped. Breonna Taylor
And ran on loop.
It was a random loop. Breonna Taylor was shot, broken into her home. She was sleeping. She's a paramedic, so she's on the right side in terms of if you want to be frank. She's on the right side of the law, and she walked in, and she's not even in your own bed. You get shot 8
You know why
times
she got shot though?
because they had the wrong person.
And false reports.
But okay, that no knock warrant stuff like that shouldn't be a thing. But
It shouldn't be in existence.
Well,
Buddy started shooting because he thought someone broke into his home. So when they returned fire, she fell victim to it. And I'm not justifying that at all, but I'm just, you know what I'm saying?
But you have the right to return. You have the right to shoot if somebody breaks into your home.
No, absolutely.
So why did the police not address themselves and let them know?
No, I don't.
Why?
I think we both know. I think we all know that the police was wrong.
Yeah,
What I want to know
for sure.
is why is she not getting the attention that George Floyd got, and why is the media suppressing all the protests that we still seeing on Twitter and social media across the country that's still going on?
Because they like to see. They don't want to see the positivity in the protests. They want to see riots. They want to see the police brutality in its forefront. Now, I agree to some extent. I want to see that too because I want to know that it's still happening and it's still prevalent, so we can do something about it. But at the same time, that's all they want to show because that's what gets a reaction. I think that's what the media is worried about right now, for them to get a reaction. And the worst part is, I'm like, yeah, the president, you always see them say like suppressing media. It seems to be like every single major news outlet is pushing out the same stuff, whether they're for him or whether they're against him. So, is the country changing for him? Is the country like, we can't mess with him anymore, we gotta find somebody else?
I'm not sure, but I will tell you that when my grandma was special, just keep it real. My grandma sat in front of the TV every day, all day, bro, and watch the same 8 programs. I call them programs for a reason, bro. Because she gonna watch the same game shows in order every day. She can tell you what the ball gonna drop. If you watching the wall, she can tell you where that ball gonna hit before you even drop it. Because she watches that much. The news, she watches the same news channels on loop, on repeat all day to get her bang pumped with all this ball information, bro. And they're just programming her to think a certain way. think a certain way, bro. So I want to ask y'all, do y'all have family members or know people, or are you being influenced by what you see? Or has it affected what you see or what you're not being seen? Has that affected the way you go about your life? Has it instilled more fear? Has it made you more passive? What has what you've seen lately, how has what you've seen lately changed your lifestyle? Or somebody around your lifestyle?
I know for my some of my family members and whatnot get absorbed in like whatever news station they watch, right? So having a conversation with them, it's cool to have different opinion, you know what I'm saying? I like the conversation, everything like that, but certain people, because of the media, you can talk to them, but you almost can't talk to them to a certain point.
You cannot talk to
because
them.
it gets to a point where it's like you're gonna think how you want to think because that's how you want to think. You're not trying to open up your mind to like a different opinion, and you're even only gonna post stuff that fits your rhetoric. And when you come across something that doesn't fit what you're trying to say, you're gonna dismiss it and say it's not real or it's propaganda or something like, you know what I'm saying, something like that. But for me personally, seeing stuff like this has definitely pushed a mindset of like black economics and like business and things like that. For me personally, seeing things like this, because that's how you're gonna bring change and stuff. It's cool to protest and things like that, but at the end of the day, until you become the one in power or until you create something, like we do too much of, are we gonna take over this, but we still under somebody, or we gonna take over. So until you create and make your own, you're gonna have, you know what I'm saying? You're gonna have the same little cycle that you have going on now. Like people trying to change the system, which is cool. You gotta do that in the meantime, but you have to create a system for yourself too as well that allows you to thrive. That's kind of been my shift in mindset.
Anybody else?
I want, because I got kind of agitated. I want to back to the comments you said about Breonna Taylor. Because I believe everything in life is common sense. But, you know, when you said that they was finna break into his house, so he opened fire. And if they put that on, I had never heard them say this first time I be hearing it, but you know, if you seen it on the media, don't believe it.
No, it wasn't on media. It was from,
With the official report.
not, well, essentially yes, but
Because if you put common sense to it, if it's a no-knock warrant and they come to look for somebody, but he thinking it's burglary, so he opened fire, he should be dead right now. Quick. Who? Her boyfriend that opened fire. He should be dead quick, fast, and in a hurry. So I can't sit here and let that.
I'm
That you said.
I'm confused. To be honest.
So for it to be a no-knock warrant, they gotta open the door, announce their presence, but they're looking for somebody.
No, that's what it go now.
That's what it means.
They don't have to knock.
No, they don't have to.
If the door in, just go in and do it.
that was,
I'm glad you said that, so that's even worse. So if they looking for somebody and they keep doing it and somebody open fire on them, he should be dead.
So you're saying that emotion can be everybody else?
Yeah. He should have been dead quick.
Most, he should have been the first one.
He should have been dead quick.
So you saying it's even more foul play than we aware of?
Yes.
So actually,
Because
that's even more
if he
than
opened fire, that means he had time to go get his gun. Because I'm pretty sure it's just not laying around anywhere in the apartment.
nobody
Like
I
house.
was trying to justify it. I'm like,
No, I'm not. But I'm just saying for the viewers watching,
Oh, no,
like,
true.
don't. There's common sense to it. I mean,
And then it's more. I think, and it's more. It's more to. There's a lot of things that we don't know. It's a lot of fights that we're fighting right now.
Right.
You know, it's one of those things where
We all fight on.
it's like what happened to George Floyd. It's like it's so much spotlight on that, on the male dominance of everything, and then for the woman's side of it, it's like
Can't get no justice.
why we not protecting our women? So now it's one of those things where now we gotta fight that fight and see, okay, what's going on? We gonna protest and everything for George Floyd, male, but when it comes to Breonna Taylor, it's like now we gotta force people to make posts and do the same thing that they did for George Floyd.
You're
So
right.
that's another fight.
You're right, but on the flip side, I think that goes back to suppression or your
Yeah.
own perception.
Right.
Because all the people were killed from George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, within 4 or 5 weeks of each other.
Yeah.
So you could be out there for your own reason.
Mhm.
But George Floyd was put on the pedestal, not Breonna Taylor.
Yeah.
George Floyd was put on the pedestal, not Lamar. George Floyd was put on the pedestal, not Vanessa Gillian, if I'm saying her name correctly. So you're right in the perception of that male dominance, but it could be suppression because them folks still out there. We still ask for justice for Breonna Taylor. I bet she's still trending.
Yeah.
And your timeline going back to normal, but
What's the last time we heard about Mark Arbor?
huh?
So what's the last time we heard about Mark Arbor?
Nothing, because you get some justice in the court system for his case.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
And
the announcements haven't been.
I was gonna say I seen when the trial started, but I ain't
You
seen
ain't heard no progression come out.
nothing.
You think we know how to fight though? Do you think we know how to fight though? Like,
No.
Why would you say that?
You had to sacrifice something to win. And like, to really be at the top, I don't think we're really willing to sacrifice as much you gotta sacrifice to be up there. So like, in the fight, when we talking about fighting, like, we need to really change like the laws. So like, you're not gonna be the highest paid man as a lawmaker. But you still gotta provide for your family, like, you know, that's a loss you gotta take. You're not gonna be the most heralded man in the paper. That's a loss you gotta take. You're not gonna be like everybody's favorite man. That's a loss you gotta take. So people not gonna be willing to take them on the head to do and progress the community. You know, that's not what they're willing to do.
Since you said community, people ain't willing to sacrifice what he may want or what he may want just a little bit to get what's good for everybody. We're in the culture right now, bro. If you don't agree with me perfectly, like align like 100%, you don't agree with me. You on the other side of the fence. I don't want nothing to do with you, bro.
Yeah.
Everybody's so right that they don't want to, that they can't be wrong these days, bro. Like you rather argue about something so foolish instead of just agreeing to disagree for a greater cause.
And there's a lot of ignorance walking around. Like, people won't acknowledge that they're ignorant to something. And they gotta remove the negativity behind being ignorant.
And that's why I like to fake it till you make it, but people be fake kicking it to make it so
There's nothing wrong with being ignorant. Being ignorant is really just saying like, I don't know and I don't have no experience in that field. So like, educate.
Can you teach me?
But there's a stigma around being ignorant.
That's what I'm saying. You
There's
gotta
a negative
remove that.
connotation.
You gotta remove that. Like, I feel like the smartest man is also one of the most ignorant because he's a sound mind to know like, I don't know that. So let me go get the knowledge to know that.
But he's accepted that he's ignorant to most things. Most people can't accept that they're ignorant or that they have false information. So when they spew out that false information and somebody combats it, they're like, oh, well, that's not true. Well, I'm right. I know I'm right. And in my heart, I know I'm right. When somebody says, perfect example, some lady goes, Obama is a Muslim.
Mm-hmm.
He was never born in this country, and I don't care, you can give me all the facts, you're never gonna prove me wrong. That's what I believe in my heart's of hearts. She's set in stone, she's set in her ways. It's like an old person, so trying to teach an old person new tricks. Some people, they can adapt. But some people are set in their ways for so long that there's no change in their mind. And that's why I feel like that's for a lot of people, there's no change in their mind at this point. They feel what they feel, and that's how it is.
So do we have to allow that thought to die out? Do we kill that thought?
You
Like,
can't
what do you do with that
ever,
thought? Because you cannot.
you just can't let it become the majority.
I think you have to educate from the ground up and do what you can for the people that are past a certain age, to be honest. Like, because it's gonna be such a long-term type strategy to get something switched that you have to start with the youth so they grow up with it.
Yeah,
Because oftentimes what you grow up with to a certain age,
It's what
you get
taught.
you know what I'm saying? So you get set in that. And that's why, that's why when you get people that know how to suppress certain groups, especially from like an education standpoint and whatnot, you start to think a certain way subconsciously. You don't even know you're thinking like that. Like certain things you think, you go to a impoverished area and you tell that kid that they can be a president. More often than not, they're not going to think that they can be the president because they weren't educated
Or exposed.
and, you know what I'm saying, exposed to in that manner. So you have to switch the way that the youth thinks to make them believe and understand that they're capable of so much more
And reach
outside and reach for it.
Okay.
But at the same time, with that though, we got to protect the youth and make sure that when they reach, sometimes they're going to need a hand to get up to the platform that they're trying to get up to.
It's hard to think of you so that you can be president when everybody in your corner, everybody in your day-to-day life is telling you that you are not gonna amount to anything. Whether it's at your home, whether it's on the block, whether you go to school and you're suppressed there, and they're like, don't reach that far because you're not gonna make it.
So, not to put the script too much, but Calvin's talking about protecting the educated youth. How do y'all feel about them sending these kids back to school with the COVID situation the way it is?
College going back.
All right, okay, let's start that question on virtual. What counties do y'all know aren't going back yet?
Cherokee's, okay, so I think Cobb's going virtual,
Yeah,
Decatur's going virtual.
I think
Bowman's-
I need a chance.
I think Douglas is virtual.
Opportunity could have come.
choice.
I know my home county, Carroll County, you get an option as well.
I think
It's
Chase is
an
going
option
back.
back home.
Yeah, I think, yeah, 50%.
Going back, right?
I know some counties it's 50% capacity, but you of course get 3 choices.
Do y'all agree with them going back?
I-
Or even having the option to go sit in the classroom again?
It's pluses and minuses.
I said it's supposed to mindset everything. I think the social structure, I think a lot of kids need, because I think, and we had this conversation, obviously, amongst ourselves multiple times, that there's pros and cons to private school versus, public school in terms of the social structure that you get. But at the same time, is it necessarily the current climate? Is it for it? I don't know. I can't tell you that it's gonna be great, because a lot of people are saying like, oh, well, you know, kids are carriers, they're not really fine. But you just said that key word was they're carriers. So when they take that and they go home to grandpa and grandpa, mom and dad, other child, or the other sibling that may be, you know, underlying medical problems, you put them at risk. I was talking to somebody the other day, a lot of people are gonna contract this disease. It's not gonna be the end of us. There's gonna be a lot more healthy people that survive it than they do die. And that's wrong, and it's a wrong way to think about it. But at the same time, you're trying to protect those people.
That's crazy.
You're trying to protect those people that shouldn't die if they don't have to.
That is a very cruel but honest way of looking at it. To be honest, since you have something, I got
I was
nothing.
about to say, like, you can't, I don't agree with this, man, because you, with the media, it's so much negative, around COVID. You know, you think you get it, you think you're gonna die, type of deal already. So why open it? Why have everything open? Why bring up, why sacrifice our kids and the frontline, workers, you know, the teachers, the principals, all the administrative office, and have them exposed to it though? Like, why do it?
Like I said, it's about the money. And
Oh, yeah, for
the
sure.
only reason I agree and for sure can say it's about the money is because the thoughts and rumors and assumptions you heard from Capitol Hill that if these public schools don't go back to school,
Right.
they're gonna have a budget killer.
Yeah.
We can take money from them.
We're gonna pull that funding.
So that is not right at all, bro.
How long are you gonna do this for though? Like how long are you gonna keep people out of school? Because you also at the same time, you know, send kids back and put them in danger and stuff like that, but at the same time, how many kids don't, the gap is about to widen in education and finances. If you don't send a kid back and you have a 7-year-old at home, let's say it's a single parent, then you put them in a bind, just like you have 2 parents that work. Now that's money that comes out of the household that you gotta get a sitter for, things of that nature.
Mhm.
For that kid that is by themselves, you're asking them to get educated and learn on their own. That's me just being devil's advocate, you know what I'm saying?
So why don't they just put good things around COVID in, or just say that we're shooting for a vaccine or something like that?
So even if you shoot for a vaccine, you're gonna have parents that don't want their kids to get vaccinated, and then they're gonna mandate that
I'm
you
gonna
get
say
the
there's
vaccine.
children out here that are contracting
You're gonna
smallpox
get-
and polio, things that have been eradicated for decades, because there are stigmas around these vaccines that people feel like lead to autism or lead to other underlying medical health reasons.
So when you mandate someone to take a shot or get vaccinated, it's mandatory to go back to school. You gotta think how many kids.
And I'm not even saying just mandate, I'm just saying just throw some good spice.
Yeah, instead of the fear mongering that they
Yeah.
throw around,
Yeah.
why not just say this is the situation.
Right.
This is how we're gonna do better,
Right.
and speak about all those positive things.
Yes.
Saying 1,000 people died in the last 20 minutes.
Can someone tell me what the major difference is between this and like the flu?
Nobody can, and that's the issue that I have when
So
it
I think it's a lot
comes
easier.
January,
I think it's a
December.
lot easier to track, and I think it's the worst part is when you have the flu, you know you got it. You at least display some type of symptoms, right? Correct? If I'm wrong, has anybody ever had the flu?
No, I never had a flu.
So I've never had the flu.
I
So I
had
don't
it for
know.
one time, and you did show symptoms, but just like now, we all know that you carry that bacteria with you on a daily basis. So at what point did that mutate and you start to show them symptoms, or you start to be dealing with that virus in a way that your body can't handle? That's really why you show symptoms, because your body fighting and it's losing.
Yeah.
This guy's so blown up, and I'm not saying it shouldn't have, but I agree with you saying about the news and stuff like that, and how they just push out, oh, dental's right, dental, they show stuff like cancer, you know what I'm saying? I say it's not out there, but at the same time, we never address what got us here in the first
Yeah, for
place.
sure,
A lot of the time, you know what I'm saying? We skip over that.
What's the lack of our healthcare system?
Why is our immune system so bad that people can sit here and can track stuff like this on a global scale. You know what I'm saying? So like,
Right, we hold up crazy.
I know, bro. I'm not gonna touch it, but just that kind of is my point. Going out like the media and stuff like that.
No, being react instead of pro.
Yeah, exactly.
Go ahead.
Okay, it just quick right here. So we've been talking about the kids and them going back to school. How do we feel about the teachers, having to have masks on and communicate, and how do that's gonna affect how they're teaching our kids. So it's like it's like a, now I don't want to say a lose lose, but
So I would tell you, the Canada I'm teaching them, bro, they're not requiring, but they're strongly recommending.
yeah.
Strongly recommending that you put that mask on. You know what I'm saying? And they went to a point where they're providing custom Carolina School Board masks for you to wear in your classroom. My school is doing an exceptional job of finding somebody to donate the disposable surgical masks for kids who can't bring their own. They're not requiring kids to bring them, but they're strongly requiring if a kid doesn't have his mask, they have the disposable ones for them.
Right.
Now, me personally, I got my desk 6 feet from the first row, and I'm gonna stand behind it with my mask on, per se. Now, it's hard to talk in, it's hard to teach, it's hard to instruct. And in a lot of ways, you're gonna miss some characteristics and some personality with your kids. Like, it's hard to build a connection behind that mask. So that's my question to y'all. If they do go back, should the mask be required? Or should they be by choice?
Is it healthy to?
You can't mandate something because then people feel like you're taking away their freedom. It's the same with kind of what the governor Kemp right now in the whole no mandating of masks, right? He says, I urge you to wear the mask, but it's in your own morality to do the right thing.
Just go back to the question of like, do we know how to fight? Like, we trying to fight COVID, and we really trying to figure out like what's the weapon we gonna use to fight it. Like, the weapon is clear, like putting a mask on and like washing hands, staying away from folks. But like, we really like debating like, do we need to put a mask on? Like, yeah, you need to put a mask on.
That's not.
Yeah, for 2-3 months.
A mask isn't really helpful.
You don't think so? But it's
No, I mean, if you wear a mask, you think it's a gas, right? It's in the air. Your eyes, your arms, the pores in your arms. When you come to your house, you don't strip down at the door.
No.
Now
You go and sit down.
That's the part I want.
You don't take your clothes off.
If it is airborne and it is highly contagious and stay on certain surfaces as long as it can.
I don't think that's as true as
Is the general misinformation like around it?
It's a
suppression and
miscommunication.
misinformation.
We don't know. Like,
That's the hard part.
Like, even when you see the CDC people going crazy in full body suits.
that's what tripped me out.
Like,
Like,
that's the key. Like,
to what
y'all
instrument should we
full
be
body
reacting
suits,
like?
y'all when we put on masks.
Cause you see CDC going in with full body suit. But like, I with a mask on, but then some folks ain't really got a mask on, and they straight.
Some folks playing sports again, touch the same basketball in the bubble. I know they in the bubble, but they touch the same basketball.
I can't go back to work for another month because they say they ain't safe. But like, LeBron just dunked on like 2 weeks ago.
Right this forehead, back to everybody on the Lakers. But
But the point of it being in the bubble is know that you are not contaminated.
you right, nigga, let's be real.
Okay.
What are they doing in the bubble? They taking everybody's temperature every day. They asking 4 questions. Have you been around anybody who's been exposed? Have you been around the fever? Got XYZ symptoms. Have you had trouble doing XYZ? In the last 10 to 14 days, have you? It's on your merit to tell the truth. And if your temperature ain't above 100.2, you good. They don't know, bro.
I mean,
They really don't know.
There's a whole other bunch of people out there that sense matter. I completely agree with that, but at the same time, like, they're trying to control as much as they can about the independent variables, but there's always going to be independent variables. You know what I'm saying? They're trying to control the variables versus like the MLB where they say, no, we're not going to do that. And now look how many cases they have. They're about to shut down the season because they just can't get it going. They had what? The Marlins had 14 people?
Yeah, nobody won't even go to the same city. Nobody will go to the
Exactly,
same
but what I'm saying is like, it
Now,
seems to be like the bubble is working to some fashion,
as far as we know.
as far as we know.
Because they in the bubble, they mean they all do the same thing.
We gonna see how tough COVID is come October.
So you say that, at least into my last question I got for y'all is this the new normal?
You just got to be normal.
And if so, for how long? Is this something that if you don't have a mask, you better go get one? You better learn how to show love and emotion with your eyes and with other parts of your body. Like,
I say,
is this a new normal? We're gonna have to walk around with masks, mandatory required, social distancing required.
if Trump get re-elected, then yes, for sure, absolutely. But if he don't, then I say Trump get elected, it's gonna last another 1.5 to 2 years. If not, then I feel like it's gonna be gone by next summer.
Oh, so you
And
think
how-
it's completely political?
So you think it's completely political?
And the way
You ain't gotta go into detail, just yes or no, you think it's too good.
Yeah.
Say no more, I want to just short. Do y'all think that's new normal? And if so, how has the lack of contact or proximity with your loved ones affected you in the quarantine?
I think it's a new norm, but you know what? I don't care. They are crippling our society so much with this COVID-19 that people forget to live. I'm gonna live regardless. I'm just believe in my Lord and I'm live. Cause look, if I leave here, I could be gone tomorrow because of car wreck.
I mean, shoot, there's a bunch of ways that you can die. I don't disagree with that, but I think it's also putting to the forefront that our government is weak and our economy is weak. Okay, that our society as a whole, what we think that is abnormal, is weak. All right,
We're very vulnerable.
we are extremely vulnerable as an American society, as a country, as a whole. We are bringing what COVID has done for us is brought everything, all of our issues to the forefront.
and they laughing too. That's the crazy part.
Okay? The reason our current administration is trying to get us to go back to normal is trying to slap a band-aid on it like, it's okay, there's nothing wrong. They talk about everybody else being communist because if they don't agree with them, who are the only people that say that? Communists. I'm just saying.
Run right now, man.
I'm just saying. But besides that, I think it's a bad idea to go back to school.
Alright, so, I know I said I got one last question, but I want to play devil's advocate. We've all, for the most part, expressed our opinions on COVID. Now, with all of us being looked at as leaders of our community and as role models to certain people, do y'all swallow y'all pride and follow the guidelines regardless of how you feel about it? Just because you know it's what's best for the community. For example, you said you're going to live your life regardless.
Yeah.
And Calvin said he believes COVID is completely political. Calvin, are you still gonna put a mask on in public because people look at you as a leader and they follow what you do? Turk, are you still gonna practice social distancing when you go live your life because people look at you as a role model and leader in your community, and what you do and how you lead is what's gonna affect everybody else?
Yeah, I do.
I wear my mask, but I'm probably not gonna practice social distancing. I'll be extra careful.
If I step
I'm
into
saying
your
if I practice on social distancing, it's hard. I go and train every day. And it's physical contact, so it's hard for me to practice. So
That is not your dead.
See me, I wear my mask out in public, and then like I'm not putting myself out in as many public spaces as I once did.
Okay.
I'm not doing that like that. So like, if I don't, I says I gotta trust who I'm going around a little more. I gotta evaluate how you move. Like if I see you been out active, I'm not going to extend myself to be around you right now. I'm gonna self quarantine myself from you, like that. That I don't think that's harsh or none of that. That's just my actions.
People want to still, we're still going to day party with thousands of people at them.
I'm cool on that.
some people still going to party.
And that's fine.
I'm
That's,
cool with
that's
that.
your own prerogative, but guess what?
I'm not gonna put myself around you.
I'm not
I ain't gonna do that.
If I step into a place of business and it's a requirement, of course I'm gonna put the mask on. But at the same time, I'm gonna address the underlying. A mask is not about to save me.
Straight up.
My body gonna save me.
So you say so it's inevitable. You die.
So you wear a mask and you get your immune system right. Cool.
But I'm focused on my, like, if the mask not required, I'm not wearing it. But I'm going back and I'm focusing on getting my body healthy.
That's not help everybody know because you breathing down carbon monoxide, which you breathe
Over and over and over and over and over again.
So I want to drop a little thought on this. For the asymptomatic carriers of this virus, if it was to touch someone who you didn't want it to touch, like you know, I'm carrying it, for real, and I put it on somebody who couldn't handle it, you know, they don't come back. There's no respawn for them. There is no restart for them. But I was asymptomatic. You know, how is that? Are you making sure you don't put yourself in a position to affect no one like that as well?
Only way you know is to take it when you go get your own test.
Right.
Okay.
So I got somebody get it, you think they got somewhere else.
Okay.
I answer that for you. I think I'm asymptomatic because I think she had it in December.
Okay.
So I could have it, but I talk on the phone with my mom like every other day. I'm not finna go home to my grandpa.
Yeah.
Okay.
For
so
the
that-
simple fact that I
that's my
could
question.
have it.
That's my question.
It's not affecting me,
I'm not
but
gonna
I know it could take him out.
Yes.
Okay.
So I'm not gonna put them in that predicament or put myself in that predicament.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Okay.
I like that.
We have one more.
stuff like that.
Well, look, man, I want to appreciate
WORKimpactgroup.com on the website.
I appreciate everybody taking the time out. You know, the DoWork family, we love y'all. If you're not a part of the DoWork family, we encourage you to become a part of the DoWork family. Stay tuned for episode 9 coming in September. And as always, man don't work, man don't eat.
Do it!